Alright folks, so today what we're going to start out with is something real simple with Pinnacle Studios 18. Today we're doing something real simple. We're just opening up a project. We're going to create import some footage and create a small title piece and export that. So we're going to show you basically how to set up your watch folders and also how to set up the project preferences so that every time you open a project, if you're typically recording projects at 1080 resolution or 4K resolution, you can set it up however you like to automatically go to that as a default whenever you open a project, and it just saves you some time on the front end. So starting out, I've got it open already, so I'm going to start from the very beginning. I'm going to close out Pinnacle, and all we're going to do right now is open it back up. So if you open up your applications list through your start menu and go down to Pinnacle Studio 18, you'll see a bunch of different choices there. Today we're just going straight into the program, so Pinnacle Studio 18 is what we want. And it'll go through its process of loading the application up and bringing in all the filters or plugins that you might have in the program. Okay, and once it is open, what we're going to do is we're going to set up our watch folders. So that's done through clicking on Setup, and it says Control Panel. Should be your only option there. So you click Control Panel, and the first thing it drops you into is your watch folders. So all this is to set up what folders you want it to watch. It's pretty self-explanatory. So if you typically are dropping things into a folder on your desktop that says Video Projects, or My Pinnacle Video Projects or something like that, just so it's easy to access, or customer projects, or whatever your situation is. You might have a folder on your desktop that you're constantly dropping media into. It might be photos you've taken, songs you've recorded, videos, anything that you can think of that might be media that you would use in your projects. That's typically what you want to do, is to make it an easy access folder. And then you can tell Pinnacle, hey, I want you to watch this folder. So when you start up the program, you're going to look in this folder for new material and automatically import it, so that you don't have to go find each individual piece and do that every time you open the software. So that's done by, the first thing you get it dropped into is these watch folders. So you just click Add Folder, and then you tell it which folder you want the program to watch. So we're going to go into Pinnacle Studio Files, and we've got a folder called Project Files. And so we're going to highlight that. We see we've got a couple of folders under that, but they'll be captured also. So we're just going to leave it in that root file, Project Files. I want you to watch that folder, and say OK, and it adds it to the list here. So that being done, the next thing that I want to do is go to my project settings, and I want to make sure all of this is what I want. I want it to be, NTSC standard. It gives you all these different settings. You can set it to 1920 by 1080 25p. Which is typically what I like to work in, so that's what I'm going to set it in. And that way, every time I open a project, it's going to default to that, and if I want it to be something different, I can change it, but that's the default. Right? I can also change my default for how long title frames are going to last. If I want it to last 8 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever, that's where I would change it, is in this menu. Same thing for still shots. If I import a photo, I can change how long the default is. Right now it's set to 5 seconds, so when I drop a photo into my timeline, it's going to display it on the timeline for 5 seconds. I can set that to 10 seconds, and it'll display it on the timeline for 10 seconds by default. And I can still change how big it is or small it is on the timeline on my own, but that's the default. And then transitions, same way. It says 4 seconds for transitions, and I do typically like mine to be about 5. So we're going to change that out to 5. Ruler zooming, that's where you can click and hold on the ruler and drag it back and forth, and it'll change the size of your timeline, and I'll show you what that means later. But I would say check that. Go ahead and leave that checked. Activate trim mode by clicking near cuts. That's up to you. There's a razor blade that you can use if you're more typically used to using the razor blade from maybe Premiere or Final Cut, then that's more more what you're used to, and just stay with that. Activate trim mode by clicking near cuts is just one less click. On a Windows machine, you've got your 2 clicks, so Mac's a little different with the 1 button. So I've got my project settings how I want, and now I've organized things how I want to go ahead and jump into editing. So doing that, it brings me to a window where basically I've got my preview window is set up on my right hand side by default. So anything I click over here on the left hand side of the page is going to appear in that window over there, even if it's a still shot or if it is a video. All of that's going to display over here on the right side then. So for what we're going to do today, all I'm going to do is go into my media folder here, and you'll see I've got already have overlays that I've told the computer to watch for in the folder named overlays. You can see I've told it to look at J.C. Kingsley, Desktop, Sun and Moon Studios, video stock. So in that folder I have stock video that we can use for various purposes. So what we're going to do, we're going to import one of those just for us to play with today. This one looks fine. And you can see your timeline is down here. And as I was saying, if I click and hold on that, I can drag this out and see a little bit more detail how many seconds I've got here on the map. So you can see once I've dragged it out, it counts out the seconds individually. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds. This is about 5 seconds long. So for just a little quick title insert, that's all we're going to need. So that means I've dropped that into the timeline. Now if I play that clip in the preview window, you can see that it plays right there and shows me what that's going to look like. And okay, that's fine. Good job. So title. If I click the title button, now it takes me into the title menu. So here I'm just going to put Pinnacle Project Video. Okay, and you'll see that those words that you typed in the middle of the screen appear up here. If I want to change them, I can just highlight those words and then choose my font style over here and pick something else if I want to. Underneath that you have your typical settings. If you're familiar with Photoshop or anything like that, you've got the ability to put a glow around the words and change the color of that to something that'll make it stand out more, like so. Or you can put drop a shadow out from underneath that. So you can add layers to that text however you want to. Up here up top you have different presets that you can also choose from if you're looking for a quick shortcut to how something looks. Maybe some of these will satisfy what you're looking for. Then you will go to your motions menu and say, okay, I want the text to do a certain thing when it comes into frame. So I'm just going to have this one fade in. And then under emphasis, you think of that as the middle section of the title, and what you're going to have it do once it's on the screen. You want it to do what? So we're just going to have it kind of pulse like that. That looks fine. So that's the middle section, and then the exit, we're just going to have it zoom towards the screen like a movie trailer. Alright, now that's being dropped on the timeline, and once it's rendered, that green line goes through all of the orange at the top of the bar. That one happens fairly quick because this is a short clip. But once that's all gone, you can move things back in line with each other and say, okay, I want these to match up and how long they last. So I'm just going to drag the edge of my videos to match each other for this. All right. Now you can see that you can't see the title on top of the other one. So you can think of these as Photoshop layers that one stacks on top of the other. So this one that's on top is what's on top. The one that's underneath it can't be seen right now. So we need to change that by going into the effects editor and all I'm going to do is click on keyers and transparency. So now I'm changing the level of transparency to greater or lesser. If it's greater, it's more see-through. If it's less than, you're going south of 50, you're making it more and more opaque, and so you can't see things through it. But once we've changed the transparency, you'll notice that a purple bar appears on top of it, letting you know that there's effect on that clip. And then you'll see that the words now show on top of that. So great, we've made our little, title flashy thingy, and we're done with that, right? So we want to take that simple project and export it. Now, naturally, you see, you can choose any overlay you want to. There's tons. We'll put some links down below this in the description for you guys to go follow. And you can find video overlays out there online that are royalty free for your projects, all you like. So we'll try to show you where some of those might be, and you can change this around however you want to. But jumping right into exporting this, you just go up to the tab that says export, and you choose what format you want it to be. We're just going to go with an MPEG 4. And we want it to be 1080p. It gives us the ratio of, it's an H.264 codec, 1920 by 1080 is the resolution. It's at 12,000 kilobits, and then 29.97 frames per second. It's 16-bit stereo, 48,000 hertz, or 48 kilohertz. So that is fine for what we're doing. We're just making a quick little, video. There's not even any audio on it. So we want that video to use in other projects later. A quick, easy way to make a little quick title that you're going to use for something down the road. We just wanted to give you a quick example of that and how to open a project and set up your settings. So you'll name your file. I've got it default saved into my desktop, so I can go put it in whatever folder I want to later. And this is just a test file. Save that, and it'll tell you how many frames it is. This is just 151 frames, so it's going to blaze through that pretty fast. And blam, we're done. Once we're done doing that, it'll give you the option on export. It'll say you can open your exported file in the File Explorer, so it'll show you where the file is on your computer, or you can open it in Windows Media Player by default just to see what the file looks like. Or in some cases you might export as an MOV file, and you can choose to play those in QuickTime if you want to. That's an integrated piece of software also. They'll open straight up in QuickTime if you want to see it in that. And that's pretty much it. You would close that out. You can close this out. You can close out Pinnacle itself. We don't really need to save it. This is just an example to show you guys how to do it. And you'll see, like I said, it was default going to my desktop, so there it is. The test file itself is on the desktop. And that is pretty much how to open a project, set up your project settings, and get everything kind of set up for every other project you're going to open in the future. And then how to make a quick title with a little flashy, video background in the background that you guys can change up however you want to. Of course, you can put whatever title words you want to, but it's a way to start playing around with those settings and get creative with the piece of software. So once again, this was Pinnacle Studios 18.5, just a quick tutorial on how to open a project and tinker around with making a title. So thanks for watching today. Glad you guys joined us here at Manny Mac Studios. And this is Sun and Moon Studios. JC Kingsley signing off.